Today we're going to use Tinkercad to make a fantastic keychain in just a few minutes, so let's get cracking. This is Tinkercad.com. It is the absolute easiest place to learn computer-aided design. It is 100% free and you can simply choose sign in with Google. Your designs are all stored to the cloud. They default to private, but you can also make them public. And you can also make a share link so that when you give people the link, they get a copy, not your real project. Today, though, we're simply going to hit Create New 3D Design. I like to start by naming files, and we're going to name this one Keychain, and I'm going to put a 26 after it. If today is your first day using Tinkercad, I do have a lot of day one tutorials. You can track them down with the bit.ly right here. Today we're going to jump right to the cool stuff though. We're going to go to your creations. Now for these to be available, you need to have followed the tutorial up above. But check this out. We have got fantastic fonts that we can bring in. As you can see, this one's called Graffiti, another Graffiti, and another Graffiti that you can play with. I'm going to play with this Bubble Graffiti for my cool keychain. I will show you quickly. All of these fonts are available using the tutorial that I'm showing you right here. I shared this the other day and a few users gave us some amazing fonts that you can find in my HLModTech digital library. They are easy to add, and then any project you open when you go to your creations, they're available. I'm going to quickly delete these. Let's put this one more in the middle, and here's how it works. Once you ungroup it, you can change what it says. I'm going to make mine say pistons and press enter, just keeping the default measurements. And then I'm going to shift squeeze to get this to the size I like keychains. When you shift squeeze, it changes every measurement when you type it in. So if I type 65, that's going to be the size of my keychain. If I now want it to be a little thicker, I can stretch it out, and I like them to be about 25. So this is how I like to make keychains. If you've got different numbers, go crazy. Use whatever you want. Now I'm going to take this shape, and I'm going to export it as an SVG. SVGs are two-dimensional. They'll only have X and Y. Notice it has the name I already gave it. I'm going to put it in my downloads folder, and I'm simply going to hit save. Now I'm going to turn to import, and I'm going to choose that file. Once again, it was in my downloads. There's Keychain 26. Hit art. Notice the measurements are still the same, and I'm just going to hit import. Looks the same, right? But here's the magic thing. We've got different options. If I go to outer line for the fill mode, and I make it round, and I'm going to set the width to 3. I'm also going to make it red because, of course, I'm thinking about the Detroit Pistons. If I grab those two shapes and do L for a line, I'm going to just choose center, center. I did not make one the master because it does not matter. And then I'm going to set the height of this one to 2. And I'm going to set the height of this one to 3. Let's make it a fantastic blue color. Once again, on my Pistons theme. Check it out. We have got a fantastic keychain. Now you may notice the middle's not filled in. Not for long. Let's go back to basic shapes. I'm going to bring out the sketch tool. Now I could do this by doing silhouette, but you know what? These are simpler shapes and it's just as easy. So I'm just making an area that covers all those. If you want to hit number 2 and make it so it's a curved shape, you can. You don't have to though. Once you hit finish sketch, set the height to the number you need. Once again, that back is 2, and we just need to match the color. I'm going to match the color by clicking here, copying that, bang, going back to the other shape. And once again, custom colors, double click and Control V to paste. A fun Pistons keychain. If I want this to be 2 instead, I can click and type the number, accidentally dragged it instead. But you can see you can make fun keychains in minutes with all the fantastic fonts we added to your creations. Notice there are also curved fonts. There's so much to play with. You really need to check out the tutorial in the bit.ly because it does give us so many cool things to play with. I'm going to make this just a tiny bit cooler. I'm going to go back to my SVG and do Control D. That makes a duplicate. I'm going to make that duplicate white, just dragging all the way to that corner. When I click back on the shape, I'm going to stay with outer line, but I'm going to make it 0.5 and press enter. I'm also going to take that and I'm going to make it almost as tall as the other part. So I'm going to do 2.5 and press enter. Notice now we've got an awesome white line around this. When I 3D print the project, I can now do 3 layer heights and bang, we'll have a 3-color project. Now you may notice we've got a hole in the O in the other spot. Check out how we fix these. Once again, back to basic shapes. Bring out your sketch tool, drop it in. Now because these little pieces are tiny, I'm going to shut off the snap grid. That lets me put the little spots wherever I want. And I'm just going to draw where these inside lines are going to be. I'm getting as close as I can. Notice this is a straight line. I'm going to click right here to start another straight line. And then I'm going to press number 2 to do a Bezier curve and follow that line relatively close. You don't need to be perfect because no one's going to know the difference. Now I'm going to click on that and I'm going to change it to a stroke. I want it to be 0.5 because remember it's this thick on the real one. And then I'm going to set it to the outside so it lands where the other part is. Notice you can also set it to the center so it's kind of in between. That makes it even easier to line it up. You can also make it so the corners are rounded. I'll show you this one real quick. Of course, we need to set the height. Remember that is 2.5. I'll make it so it shows up white once again. And if you peek in there, that fits just like it's supposed to. Now we need to fix the other ones. I'm going to double click on that same one, or I'm going to click it once and hit edit. And then I'm just going to move across to the other areas where I need one. This one is super easy. P for pen. I'm going to just click the top corner, the right side, the bottom center, the left side, and the top center again. Double click and double click to auto smooth, and once again do the stroke settings. 0.5, and I'm going to keep with that center theme. And just finish that all the way around your design. You can add as many as you want. You can fiddle with them as much as you want. I ended up choosing 0.8 for the final measurements because I thought it looked better when I was done. My final step is to add the little keychain hole. I'm going to do it with a tube. I'm going to choose a radius of 6. And of course I need the height to match too. Then I can simply bring it into place where I think I like it. Of course, you can adjust those numbers. I'm going to bring this in just a little more. And finally, do Control G to union group. When you do this, it'll initially be all one color. If you prefer to see all the colors, just turn multicolor on. One thing I want to fix is I want this color to match. See if I still got that pasted in. Control V. Yes, I do. So now with my colors all set, you'll notice I made the borders a little bit larger. I think that's going to look cooler. Let's export it for 3D printing. Once again, it is a single shape, STL. I'm going to change it to say pistons, save it in my 3D modeling folder. And then we can bounce to Bambu Lab Studio. We're going to add. And notice it comes in one color, but we are going to paint it with the awesome layer height skills. Click the shape, click the paint bucket, switch to layer heights. Now, if you remember right, we've got a measurement of 2 millimeters for the main base. I'm going to have it be the red. I'm going to look underneath, and if I click right here, bang, that is all painted. I did a 0.5 millimeter for the white, so now I'm going to change this to 0.5. Press enter, switch to my white. Let's zoom in on this flat piece right here. Right now, everything is white, except that chunk underneath. I'm going to do Control Z to undo that. I'm going to get right to this edge, and bang, there is our white. And of course, the blue is already up top. Just like that, we've got an epic keychain. We can hit Slice Plate. Notice it is only going to change filament 7 times, and it'll be done in about 35 minutes. Print plate, and send it for 3D printing. Now, while that's printing, if you want to make one that's face down, I created this tutorial earlier. The real trick here is for you to cut out the parts where the letters are going to be. This tutorial, of course, will be listed right here. You can follow those steps. I'm going to do Control Z to put those back. And then when you bring this into the printer, you simply flip it upside down for 3D printing. That way you get the nice texture of your build plate. It is a fun skill. If you really want to learn it, just make sure you follow this video right here. Of course, this was essentially the same trick, but with more custom fonts. And a little more than 30 minutes later, a wicked cool graffiti pistons keychain. How cool is that? All right, so we're back in the lab. We've got much better lighting. Love how the red turned out. That was 2 millimeters thick. These were each a 0.5 millimeter thick. Maybe I want to make them each 1 millimeter thick. But this is where it's so awesome because you have complete control as you make your own awesome keychains. So let's wrap up like this. First, I hope you see how cool the SVG fonts are. Storing them as your creations gives you so many opportunities to put them in all of your projects. We will come back to this. Make sure you follow the channel. There will be other cool things we do with these fonts as well. Of course, if you make something awesome using fonts or maybe add fonts, please tag them with HLMT23 so we can all check them out and put them to use in our projects as well. Of course, I do want to say thank you to everybody that supports me via YouTube memberships. Don't forget there are 3 different levels of support starting as low as $5 a month. With any level of support, you get early access to videos. Make sure you also pay attention for those members-only posts. A massive shout out as well to everybody that supports me via Patreon. It has a fantastic free messaging area where you can ask questions, post designs, gain skills. Of course, you can learn more with the bit.ly up above or the link in the description. Finally, friends, I want to thank you for watching. Don't forget every time you like, hype, share a video, add a comment down below, or click subscribe. You're helping HLModTech get just a little bigger, which absolutely makes my day. Friends, have a glorious day, and keep tinkering.